right now. Thank you again. Today we are going to focus on a virtual tour of the Dan River Basin, Part 2, North Carolina. Now, obviously, we can't show you everything in North Carolina, but we've got some great speakers on today that will be sure to amaze you with some of the awesome assets we have on the North Carolina side of the Dan River Basin. I want to first start talking about Dan River Basin Association. We are hosting this today. This is our footprint. This is what we protect and preserve throughout the Dan River Basin. Covers about 16 counties and 3,300 square miles. We have three main focus areas: recreation, education, and stewardship. And all of these programs you're seeing on my screen right now are very well defined on our website. Please visit us at danriver.org and check these things out. Now, without further ado, we're going to get started. I am going to introduce our first panelist, Jason Anthony. Jason joined the Division of Parks and Recreation after high school as a seasonal employee at Fort Macon State Park. He worked summers through college, and he has worked as a ranger at Hanging Rock State Park since 2003. Jason, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Tiffany. I appreciate y'all having us. You asked me to give kind of a brief overview of Hanging Rock State Park, and the purpose is just to kind of encourage everybody to visit when they get a little bit more time. I can by no means address everything that this park has to offer in the time that I'm allotted, but it's just kind of to whet your appetite, I suppose, and just let you know what we have to offer up at Hanging Rock State Park. I used to say that Hanging Rock was one of the hidden gems of the Dan River Valley, or really of the state of North Carolina, but that's not really the case anymore. We were closed for 2 months during COVID, but are fixing to have probably another year of record visitation from all the people that have been coming ever since we reopened last month. So it's been pretty busy for us. The next slide is just a topographical relief map of the county. As you can see on the map, we're still in the Piedmont of North Carolina. That's what amazes people when they come here. They think they're actually in the mountains because technically, well, you are when you're in the park, but everywhere else is still the Piedmont of North Carolina. You can see the white caps, which are in the center there, the highest peaks of the Sartown Mountains. We are technically, our mountains are called monadnocks, which is basically a geological term for an isolated mountain surrounded by the rolling countryside or the plains. And if you look closely on the map, you can see the Dan River as it comes in from the north and then skirts the northern side of the mountains before it goes out into Rockingham County. So on the next slide, you'll see our lowest elevation, of course, the Dan River, which is about 800 feet above sea level. And on the slide after that, you'll see our highest elevation, Moore's Knob, which is about 2,580 feet above sea level. So if you compare our mountains at Hanging Rock with like Mount Mitchell, which is like 6,684 feet above sea level, we're not that tall in elevation, but you got to remember, Mount Mitchell is also surrounded by mountains itself, and you don't have the lowlands that we have here in Stokes County that you can look out at. So the next slide shows the observation tower on Moore's Knob that was originally built as a Forest Service lookout tower. So you can go up there and look out from that point, 2,580 feet, and you can look down and see the Dan River Valley at 800 feet above sea level below you. So you have a big contrast there. You can also, on clear days, see the skylines of Winston-Salem and Greensboro in the distance, and of course the Blue Ridge Mountains to the north. So the next slide is just going to give a very, very brief overview of the history of the park. These mountains have been a tourist attraction since the 1850s. As early as 1850, the mineral springs resorts were open and operating within Stokes County. They were big business in the county, wealthy clientele, tobacco and furniture people would come and they would stay at the resorts. And it was said that if you bathed or drank the mineral water, it was a cure-all, a tonic. It was said to be good for you. We actually still have one of these mineral springs hotels standing. It's one of the only ones still standing in North Carolina, and that's in the top left of the screen there. That's called Vade Mecum, the Vade Mecum Hotel. The other hotels were at Moore Springs and Piedmont Springs, and they burned down right before the Great Depression. So on the next slide, you can see one of the billings for the hotels, And that's actually the Piedmont Springs at the top left, and it has the lower Cascades, a picture of that, which is still one of our most popular waterfalls. You can see that on the rightmost two slides there. And down below on the left is a picture of one of the hotel groups visiting the springs dressed in their Sunday attire. I always like to show that one. So if you see the next slide, this is something that never was. I always like talking about this because people like drop their jaws and they're like, what in the world? I can't believe this ever happened. But this was a 2-page ad in the Danbury Reporter that during the 1920s, before the park was here, what is now Hanging Rock State Park was going to be subdivided into 1-acre lots, and they were going to be auctioned off to whoever could afford them. And it was going to be the Hanging Rock Resort. It was going to have a swimming pool, an airstrip, a golf course, and all sorts of crazy stuff that we don't have in the park now, obviously. But that never happened, of course. The Mineral Springs era ended with the Great Depression and the invention of the automobile. So in the next slide, you can see kind of what started the park era. So the Great Depression was the nail in the coffin. After that, the resorts closed because all of their business was pretty much wiped out overnight. But even before then, as people started driving cars around the county and around the world, people would go farther. So the Winston-Salem and Greensboro people didn't necessarily have to, they could go in a day and be to the beach, or they could go to Asheville or somewhere like that. So the Mineral Springs were forgotten. So the guy who was going to develop the park into 1-acre lots, that failed. And then the federal government was going to buy 110,000 acres of land in Stokes County and turn it into a national forest. And that fell apart too. So the state of North Carolina ended up acquiring it. And this is a picture of the Civilian Conservation Corps that did the work to build the park. So on the next slide, it shows the CCC recruits as they're working, building the infrastructure to the park, which includes the roads and a few of the trails and some of the structures. Now you got to keep in mind, these were guys who were 18 to 25 years of age, and they were paid $1 a day for their labors. So on the next slide, you can see the bathhouse building, and the one after that, that's one picture, and then another one of it in the snow. That's considered their crowning achievement. That's on the National Register of Historic Places. And the slide after that shows the lake, which they built mainly by hand, digging out a 12-acre lake. So it was a lot of work. And the next slide is a picture of Marion James, who was one of the last surviving members there in the bottom right. And he passed away at the age of 96. That's him at 95. And I always like to point him out because he was always an ardent supporter of the park and came up here and loved telling people about his service in the CCC. So he was proud of it. And so the next slide is just another one of our beautiful scenery pictures that I like to show. That's looking from Moore's Knob towards the west. So you can see Sartown Mountain in the middle there with the antenna towers on it, and then Pilot Mountain right behind that. So the next slide is some of the fauna that we have here at the park of timber rattlesnakes. I like to tell people about those, don't have time for that, but this is all some of the critters that we have: timber rattlesnakes, black bears, and the rest are typical of the Piedmont, box turtles and lizards. And the final slide, well, one of the final slides here is some of the wildflowers. I'd like to point out, you don't have to go to the parkway to see the spring wildflowers. You can come right to Hanging Rock and you can see the rhododendron and mountain laurel in bloom. We have plenty of them. And the final slide is simply another scenery picture there in the snow. That's from Moore's Knob looking at Hanging Rock and the Visitor Center. And with that, I just hope that everybody is encouraged to come and visit us at their nearest opportunity. We are open for business now. The trails are, at least. The lake will stay closed this year, but try coming on a weekday if you can, and you'll have a great time, I'm sure.
Well, Jason, thank you so much. If anyone has any questions, there is a Q&A box and a chat box on your panel, and Jason will hang around and answer any questions after the webinar is completed. Thank you, Jason. All right, so our next panelist today is Cindy Adams. Cindy, will you join us with video and audio? There she is. She is coming. Cindy has worked for the City of Eden since 2008 and is the coordinator of tourism and special events. Cindy manages the annual Riverfest, Piedmont Pottery Festival, and has initiated the Oink and Ale, Touch a Truck, Movies Under the Stars, and a whole bunch of other really cool events that happen in Eden. Cindy, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. I'm honored to be a part of this panel. And Jason, I want to tell you, my 19-year-old son visits your facility weekly. He is a boulderer at Moores, and so he loves Hanging Rock. I'm going to talk about the Smith River Greenway today. We are so very proud of this, and it has evolved into something so much more than a greenway. It is a 1.7 mile trail. It has two entrances, one on the Eden YMCA end and one off of Meadow Road. We have a beautiful river access there, the Island Ford Landing. We have just recently added a beautiful butterfly trail with a scavenger hunt added to that. A bronze otter sculpture. There's an observation deck. Sunflower field has been planted and they are emerging, and so we're looking forward to those later in the summer. Recently, we discovered through birding and local birders, we have 117 species of birds that have been located at that facility. We have an Eagle Scout birdhouse project. We had so many visitors in the past few years, we had to expand our parking up on the hill. And through this COVID-19 experience that we're all going through, I know you and your trails as well have just been inundated with lots and lots of people, and so it's really great to see. And then as you can see in the background of this picture, there's a shelter with picnic tables and restrooms there. The sign that you see is fixing to be updated. We did a new style at our Matrimony Creek Trail, and it's metal with etching, and so we're looking forward to getting that in the next few months. And those two logos that you see there are brand new as well. The Small Town Big Outdoors is our slogan for our tourism department, and then our Eden Trails, you will see that on all of our trails across the county, so you'll know where you're at. And the big exciting thing that we'll talk about near the end that's coming soon is our otter holt, or otter habitat. The next slide, that's a great picture that was taken a few years ago. DARBA was responsible for our kiosk there at the Island Ford Landing. There's DARBA members there. There's economic development, the county tourism director, Mark Bishoprick, who owns Three Rivers Outfitters right down the street from this, Johnny Farmer, who heads Parks and Rec. And so thank you so much for DARBA for looking out for us. The next slide, as you can see, this is at Island Ford Landing. Lots of activity there. It's easily accessible, canoeing, kayaking, lots of tubing takes place here. It's a great place just to get in the water, just to wade, to cool off on a hot summer day. It's not very deep. And so you see a lot of activity. This was during a filming that we were doing for a project that we were doing for UNC TV. The next slide is a sign we had done last year for our sunflower field. We learned a lot with this. We learned that deer love sunflowers, and so we had to take some measures this year to kind of, I can't say we got it under control, but more under control than we did last year. And we asked folks not to pick them until the end of the season because we want everybody to enjoy them. The next slide, again, and all these pictures that you see of the sunflower field were taken by our local photographer, Gordon Allen, who does a lot of photography across the county, and we're very pleased with his work. But you can see from this one, and then the next slide, more wildlife, great picture of that dragonfly. And then the next one is what we were talking about, the 117 species of birds. This was very exciting. This came about, we call the North Carolina Birding Trail, and there has not been any additions to that trail with sites since its inception many years ago. And so we were inquiring about getting the Smith River Greenway added. We did get a response, and they are looking at, in the next few months, of adding trails, and we're certainly on their list. And two very local experienced birders had already been doing work on this trail, so it was great that we talked to them. It's considered an eBird hotspot. If you look that up online, it is quite an impressive site. This is used by birders all over the world. There are notifications of when a specific species is seen, and people may travel to your spot to see that, to photograph. But this is very exciting, and it fit right in. We had an Eagle Scout who did a project and put some birdhouses along the trail, and it just fed into that. So hopefully in the next few months, we can tell you that we have been officially added to the North Carolina Birding Trail. The next slide, this is a piece of work that we did. In the last couple of years, Eden has really got on the public art bandwagon. And so during COVID, we put this together, hopefully encouraging people to go all across Eden to see our public art. And several of these pieces are on the Smith River Greenway. That include the otter sculpture, the butterfly trail, and then the trail amenities that are at Matrimony and will soon be at Smith River Greenway are pieces of art in themselves. So I encourage you to go to our website after this is over, exploreedennc.com, see all that's offered outside of this trail, but this art is absolutely gorgeous. The next, we are so proud of our bronze otter sculpture. Otters are actually on the Smith River here in Eden, and we'll talk a little bit more extensively about that when we talk about the otter holt. But this piece was done by artist Roger Martin from Albemarle, North Carolina. The bronze itself is 36 inches, not including the base. And Darby member Brian Williams was so kind to design and install this beautiful otters on the Smith River sign. There's just lots of education, lots of activity with the otters on the river right now. The next slide, this has been something that has been so popular. We had the artists, I had thought about a butterfly trail, but my thinking was a botanical trail. And Trip Bennett, who is the artist there in the picture, and Olga, the lady beside him, did a lot of the painting. He designed and cut these out, and she did a lot of the painting. Came to me and said he had heard we'd been talking about a butterfly trail. How about some of these art pieces? It's the perfect marriage. It is absolutely gorgeous. There are 20 of these beautiful butterflies scattered along the trail. There's the big North Carolina flag painted on the butterfly at the shelter. There are 2 of these that are on post that are big enough for you to stand in front of, or children to stand in front of and have their picture taken and you look like you're a butterfly. And then we added a scavenger hunt to this. And so kids, adults, folks of all ages can get involved. The next slide shows some more. You can see one of the birdhouses there under that yellow one. That is part of the Eagle Scout project I talked about before. The big sign on the right that says the Smith River Greenway Butterfly Trail. It has steps behind it. You can stick your head through like when you're in an amusement park and have a fun picture taken. So it's very interactive. We encourage, again, like I said, folks of all ages to just jump in and get involved with that. The next picture shows some more butterflies, but it also shows that beautiful creek that runs along the trail there. We just love that. And this trail, for the most way, follows the Smith River for a great length of it. The next slide is our otter holt. Tiffany and I had talked about this several years ago. This is a long time in the making. We've been very passionate about it. Brian Williams and Paul Dishman from our Public Works Division is actually making this happen, and it's going to happen this month, the month of July. But we're trying to create a safe otter habitat and a place where otters can have their pups and keep them dry and keep them safe and populate the otter population here in Eden. It's a first of its kind in the United States. You'll see these in Europe, but you will not see them in the States. It works perfectly with our marketing plan. Eden has truly marketed ourselves as a river community, as a recreational center. And again, I cannot thank Brian Williams. He is so smart and so into this, and has actually had an otter as a pet before. So he's very versed in the activities of these beautiful, sweet, loving creatures. But he has found recently, and you'll see the pictures at the bottom, there's lots of evidence on the little island that is there at the Island Forward Landing that otters are here and here in numbers. There are little scales from fish, there are paw prints and different things there that he has found. And so that was very, very exciting to know. Like I said, this is being built. The very exciting part of it is there's going to be an otter cam. and it will be placed on our Explore Eden website, and so you can see the activity as it progresses. And we're looking to hopefully have activity the spring of 2021. The next thing, another exciting thing, just right at the entrance on the Meadow Road side, there's a new brewery coming in called Reynolds Brewery. The mustache there is part of their logo. And so we added it to our little otter logo that we used for Riverfest and came up with a little logo for the event. But we're looking to partner with them on a Smith River Otter Run that will be done on the Greenway later in the fall. Again, we're waiting on governor's orders as to how many people we can gather, but hopefully that'll take place. And then the last slide, as we say here in Eden, you ought to be here. The Smith River Greenway, as I said, is just chock full of great interactive things to do, a great place to exercise, a great place to socialize, to come have a picnic, just make a day of it. And thank you again so much for having me here.
Aunt Cindy, thank you so much. I just love this trail, and I guarantee you are going to get a lot of new visitors after this presentation. All right. Well, Cindy, thank you. We'll see you at the end. If you have any questions, Cindy will stay on and be able to answer questions at the end. T, thank you for joining us. We are going to talk about the Chinkapin Trail, which is down here in the Wentworth area. T is a DARBA founder and currently serves as the Secretary Treasurer of the Friends of the Chinkapin Walking Trail. Welcome, T. T, we are having trouble with your audio. T, we still can't. All right, wait. Talk again. Well, that certainly does not sound good. We sound like we have the chipmunks on right now. T, maybe try turning your microphone off and on again. All right, she is having some issues with her audio. We just tested this earlier and didn't have any trouble. Not quite sure what's happening. T, I'm gonna mute your audio real quick and unmute you. Let's see if that works out. Go ahead, let's hear you talk. All right, T's audio unfortunately is not working properly. T, we're gonna have to have you sign off and sign back on. And we'll get with you later in the webinar. All right, T's gonna sign off and hopefully we'll have her come back on in a few minutes. I am so sorry for that. So we are going to go ahead and move to our next speaker. We're going to go down to Lake Reidsville, panelist Donna. Welcome, Donna. Thank you for joining us. Donna has worked for the city of Reidsville for 39 years. What a trooper. And is the current community development director and planning director. She's worked on many plans for the city, including the first adopted Greenway plan, and later the Reidsville Greenway Blueway plan. Welcome, Donna. Okay, Donna, we can't hear you. Uh-oh, my goodness, what is happening here? Donna, can we hear you now? Can you give us a few words? There you are. Yes, now we can hear you. Oh, good.
Okay. All right. We may have some internet issues. I'm not sure here. But anyway, thank you for having us. And I wanted to explore a couple of our trails and along, of course, Lake Reidsville itself. The picture that you see here is an aerial view of Lake Reidsville. And you can the next slide. Uh, Lake Reidsville, of course, is on Waterworks Road here on the southern end of our city. It's a 750 acre water lake. It is, we have about 60 plus acres that's actually in the recreational facility part or the park itself. The lake opened in 1983. We did acquire the lake itself back in about the 1970s. We started purchasing the land to build the lake, and but prior to that, it was farmland. And this Lake Reidsville is our source also of our drinking water for Reidsville. So we're very proud of this water and this lake, and we have an abundance of water. The activities, of course, on the lake or around the lake, one is fishing. We have 14 fishing tournaments at the lake, and we have several of them are catfish tournaments that's held actually at night. So there is day and night fishing tournaments. A lot of our fish in that, or the lake is has a lot of bass, crappie, brim, and a lot of other varieties in the lake. We also have boating, and we have water skiing and tubing on there. Back to the fishing, you can, of course, fish from the boats, obviously. Our docks, we have piers, and there is designated locations along the lake that you can actually fish from the lake boundary itself. We do not allow swimming in the lake because it is our drinking water source. However, with the water skiing and tubing, you can definitely find ways of course, getting wet if you desire to do that. So next slide. Thank you. Our duck hunting, we have at the lake, we have 17 duck blinds. They are can be reserved at our lake store. In addition to that, we have the canoeing, kayaking, paddle boarding, and also pedal boats, which is not pictured here, but they are all for rent at our lake store at Lake Reidsville. Next slide. Here, the first picture that you see here, of course, is our lake store itself. It does have basically snacks that you can purchase there. It's of course not a full grocery store for the campground, but it's snacks and fishing supplies, that types of thing that can be purchased there. The picture there on the right is of our campground. We have 18 wooded sites for rent. They have water and electric, and then we have an additional 28 sites that's actually full hookup with all amenities. So we have a total of 46 sites there. Then our picnic shelters, we have 6 picnic shelters throughout the lake grounds or the park grounds, and we have, of those, 2 are large and 4 are, we say small. It just depends on the number of course, individuals that you have in your party. They're rented out for just about any kind of event, company events, family reunions, birthday parties. Many children's birthday parties are hosted out at the lake. Our next slide. Here at the top, you will see our disc golf. We have an 18, I guess you would say an 18-hole disc golf course. As far as we know, it's the first one in Rockingham County. It is called Lake's Edge. They host tournaments there, and there is a club there that hosts tournaments, and there is at least one state tournament that goes on there a year. You can play it for free. If you don't have your own disc, you can rent those within the lake store. Here we have on our right, we have our outdoor event concerts. We have a palladium there, our amphitheater there. We normally hold our 4th of July celebration there, but with the COVID going on, it's not going to happen this year. But under normal circumstances, we, as you can see in this picture here, we would have a lot of vendors, food, activities for the kids, and the fireworks are normally shot out over Lake Reidsville, which is an absolutely beautiful event to see. This year we are still having our fireworks on July 3rd, but they will be done. They will be shot at Jaycee Park, and we're just angels in the areas around the park itself. Jaycee Park will be closed, but you can see the fireworks from other locations close by Jaycee. Here on the left-hand side of the screen is our new zip line. We are anxious to get it open. It is installed, but with COVID, we have not been able to open it yet. So we are anxious for the kids to be able to enjoy that. It's out there right beside the playground. But right now it is closed with COVID. But we're hoping to get that open as soon as the governor allows us to. Just throw in a couple of views of the lake here. We are part of the North Carolina Birding Trail. We have many species of birds out there. Of course, golden finch you see around quite a bit, but we have the yellow-bearded chat, the red-tailed hawks, blue heron. So we have a lot of beautiful birds in that particular area. The next slide will go on to our trails. We have, right now, we currently have about close to 3.5 miles. We have partnered with DARBA, and we'll be having a grand opening for another 2.25 mile extension to the end of the trail. So we'll be up to close to 6 miles roughly. That you can go out and walk along the banks of the river, banks of the lake itself. We were very fortunate to be able to partner with DARBA, and they received a North Carolina Trails grant that has allowed this extension to happen. Next, thank you. Just throw in a few pictures here of what you will see as you walk along the trail of Lake Reidsville. As you can see up here in the right-hand corner, we have some beavers, if you can catch them, and then just some of our piers that we have, or bridges that we have, I should say, crossing the lake, and then just some views of the lake itself. Okay. Our goal for our trails at Lake Reidsville is to be part of the Mountains to Sea Trail, which you see down at the bottom of the screen along Haw River. We hope to be a leg of that trail and come up and circle. That's exactly right. Where Tiffany is showing here, and going up and coming all the way around the lake and coming back down on the other side of the lake and coming back into the into the Mountains to Sea Trail itself. We're very excited about this. We have met with them, so we're very optimistic with that. If you, in the very corner down here, you'll see the Haw River State Park. And so that's a nice amenity to have close by also. Coming real soon, we're gonna be having our Blueway Trail. We are opening our first Blueway this summer, or our Blueway trailhead that's gonna be at McCoy Road, which is basically in the center of the map there that you see. So we are planning on that, and just waiting for some state permits right now to be able to actually build that and open that up. That will give about a 2-mile paddle down to the lake, to the park itself. Then up on the far end, we've just got noticed Actually, I got an email yesterday. We have been working with the the museum, Rockingham County Museum, and in hopes to be able to put a Blueway access on their property up on at close to Ironworks, but up on the Monroe Road and at the Ironworks site. And they have yesterday sent an email saying that they have their executive committee has approved us having an easement. So we are very much looking forward to working with them over the next year and putting another Blueway easement up at up on their property. A lot of this has been made possible because of a donation that we had from the Pella Corporation, and also the city has set aside some funds too. But the biggest part is, of course, the donations and the partnerships that we have made with other organizations such as Pella and DARPA. Okay, I'm just wanted to throw in a couple of our other locations, one being Lake Hunt. It's kind of a fisherman's paradise. It is mainly fishing. There are amenities out there, fishing piers, a boat launch, picnic shelter, and our public restroom. They do have public restrooms out there. It is to open or to actually visit this location now. We did have it open there for a while, just drive up, but we have closed it back. So to actually access property, you do go to Reidsville and acquire a key, and you are able to access it with that. The Jaycee Park, we have about a 1.5 mile Greenway trail there. This is actually a handicap accessible trail. The phase 1 opened in 2001, and then phase 2, of course, opened in 2006. Along with the trail, we have many other amenities at the Jaycee Park: picnic shelters, playground, horseshoes, baseball fields, and of course, a recently opened dog park, which we're very, very proud of. Next slide. The next slide. Tiffany, can you hear me?
Hello, I am so sorry. It seems we have lost Donna. But I promise we will put the addresses and links to information about what Donna has talked about today. I am not sure what is going on in Reidsville and Wentworth today, but Donna, thank you for joining us. And I would like to next invite panelist Emily Buchanan. Hi, Emily. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here today with you guys virtually.
Emily is going to talk about a trail out here in Caswell County, the Orchard Lake Trail. She is an educator in Caswell County and currently serves as the director of the Caswell campus operations for the Piedmont Community College's Caswell campus. Emily, thank you. I am going to stop sharing my screen and you are going to start sharing yours. And thank you so much.
You're welcome. Can you see it?
We can.
Okay. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to virtual Caswell County. I want to say thank you for letting me be here. And what you're going to see is one trail that is a larger part of a trail plan for the whole county that I recently learned the association helped Caswell County plan. And so I am on the committee for the county to help bring that plan back to life. And I am so sad to say that as a Caswell resident, lifelong resident, I had never been on this trail. So when I got the invitation to do this presentation, I went with my family. And so every picture that you see in the presentation are pictures that my family and I took along the way. And I think you're in for a treat. This is the Orchard Lake Trail. It is on our county home road. The address is Blanche, but it is right there in Yanceyville, our county seat. It's a soft surface trail. It's a half a mile long, and it's really good for hiking, biking, and pets are welcome. So the first thing you'll notice when you pull up to the trail is a really large parking lot. And the parking lot is off of a little tiny shopping center that houses Yoder's Country Market, which I have a picture of down here in the corner. That is our Amish goods store, and it's a great place to stop in and get a bottle of water, a sandwich, some ice cream, or use the restroom either before or after your journey. And there's plenty of ample parking on the side and in front of that building. And right behind the building is the trailhead. And so I wanted to include a map to show you where you'll end up. And my advice is something my family did was, since it's only half a mile, we hiked all the way down, and then we turned around and hiked all the way back and ended our trip with being back at our car. But if you'll notice, the trail takes you down, even though it's kind of close to the main highway, you don't really feel or see or hear any of the traffic. And it takes visitors behind the hotel in Yanceyville and up to a lake in Clubhouse Drive, and actually ends at our senior center. And the reason why it's called Orchard Lake Trail is, of course, there's a small lake on the trail and also an orchard right out front at the parking area. And here's what the signage looks like. The first sign that you'll see tells more information about the Orchard Lake Trail, and there's a lot of signage along the way so that you don't get lost. And that's really important because the trail is actually on private property. And so there is some equipment at the trailhead. And so there are lots of reminders along the way to please stay on the trail and not on private property. And this is past the entryway from the main signage as you're going along the trail. And so these are all pictures that my family and I took along the way. Our dog loved the trail. It was a little narrow in some parts, but it really just added to the feel of being somewhere other than along Highway 86 in Yanceyville. My kids are very small. It was very easy, simple trail for them to do without a lot of help or having to be carried by mom or dad. And there's no places to sit or benches along the way, but we did find some down trees and logs that had been cleared and cut up that we took a small break on. I was very surprised and excited to see the bridges and the wooden walkways. There are lots of these along the trail, and it really helps elevate it above a small creek that runs through the area. And it's been pretty well maintained and was really clear and easy to get through. My daughter liked to collect some of the flora and fauna along the way. And we were very excited to see raccoon tracks because one of the things we wanted to find was signs of wildlife. And this is a picture of the very small creek. I imagine if you don't go during a time after a large rain, you probably won't see much water, but we had gone the day after a storm, and so there was a little bit of water flowing through the creek area. And at the end of the trail at Clubhouse Road, this is the small lake that you'll see, and the trail crosses over this little path and takes you up to the end of the senior center. And there is a house with private property with a small dog who will probably come out and greet you, who decided to come greet our dog and us as well. They were very friendly. And then when we came back, we stopped at Yoder's Market and had some really good Bluebell ice cream. And I was talking to the owners of the store who had said they were very excited about this presentation, and the trail is not used as much as it could be, and they would love to have more people from all over come in and see the store and certainly visit the trail. It's a really welcome place to come and get a little bit of air conditioning after you've been outside. And I wanted to throw this in there too, just because the trail itself doesn't have any facilities on it. This is within walking distance of that same trail, and it's only about 1.5 miles away. So you can drive to Maud F. Gatewood Municipal Park or walk there. And I wanted to bring it to your attention because it's one of the newer parks and areas in Yanceyville, and it has plenty of ample parking and facilities, and it actually has a trail that can be used for walking and benches, but it's not very long. It's about 3/10 of a mile long, but it is really pretty, very well maintained, really pretty vegetation to see, peaceful place to sit for a while and rest. And it has horseshoe pits and restrooms and picnic tables, and grills, which can be used for gatherings. And we hope to see you in Caswell County enjoying our Orchard Lake Trail.
Thank you so much, Emily. We
Welcome.
really appreciate it. I am going to try to bring back our T. Butler and see, T, if your audio is working, if you can turn on your video and audio. Okay, we can see you. Let's see if we can hear you. Oh my goodness, still no audio. Well, I promise everyone that we will do a very special presentation about the Chinkapin Trail at a future meeting. So, T, I'm so sorry that you were not able to join us, but we will absolutely come back for that. So thank you everyone for joining us today. If I don't see any questions in the chat room or any chats, does anybody have any questions for any of the panelists today? Except for T, who unfortunately is having audio issues. All right.